The midday sun blazed down on Camp Pendleton's firing range, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. Recruits lined up, sweat dripping from their brows, as they fired their M4 rifles under the watchful eye of their instructors. It was a normal training day, until a frail-looking old man in faded jeans, a worn-out jacket, and a Marine cap walked up to the gate. "Sir, this area's restricted," said a young sentry, squinting at him. The old man smiled, his voice calm but steady. "I'm not here to cause trouble, son. Just wanted to get a few rounds in, it's been a while." The guard raised a brow. "You want to shoot on the Marine range? You got clearance for that?" Before the veteran could reply, a tall, broad-shouldered officer, Colonel James Porter, walked over. A stern man known for his strictness and dry humor, he eyed the stranger up and down. "Who are you, old-timer?" the colonel asked, half amused. The man straightened slightly, though his body betrayed the stiffness of age. "Name's William Hartman, Colonel. Served in Vietnam, 1st Recon Battalion." The colonel chuckled, crossing his arms. "That was a long time ago, Sergeant. These rifles have changed since your day. You sure you don't want to go home and play bingo instead?" A few young Marines standing nearby snickered. But the old veteran didn't flinch. "Maybe, but I'd like to try your range, if you'll let me." Colonel Porter exchanged a look with his staff sergeant. "Fine," he said finally, amused by the old man's audacity. "Give the old-timer a rifle and let's see if he remembers which end to point." The Marines laughed again, but William took the M4 carbine with careful hands, the same way one might cradle an old friend. He checked the sights, the weight, the balance. For a brief moment, his fingers trembled, not from fear, but from memory. He took a deep breath, lowered his stance, and looked downrange. "Target at 300 meters, the range officer announced. William didn't respond. He just squeezed the trigger. Pop pop pop. 3 shots rang out. When the smoke cleared, the spotter stared through his scope, then turned to the colonel, stunned. "Sir, 3 bullseyes." The laughter faded instantly. William simply nodded. "Good rifle. Solid trigger pull. Beginner's luck," the colonel said, though his tone was tighter now. "Push him to 600. William said nothing, adjusting the sights with steady precision. Another breath, another series of shots, pop pop pop. Again, perfect hits. Now even the recruits were quiet. The wind rustled through the range as everyone stared at the old man in disbelief. "Sir," the range officer whispered, "he just tied the Marine Corps accuracy record." The colonel's smirk faded. "Set him to 1,000 meters. The target was nearly invisible now, a speck in the distance. Even the best marksman on base rarely made perfect shots at that range." William exhaled slowly, his eyes narrowing behind weathered lids. For a moment, his mind drifted, back to the humid jungles of Vietnam, to the mud, the heat, and the sound of his squad pinned down by enemy fire. He could still hear the cries of his brothers, the chaos, and the voice of his old CO yelling, "Hartman, you're our only shot." He had made that shot, one that saved 12 men. And now, decades later, he steadied his trembling hands and took aim once again. Pop, pop, pop. When the final bullet hit, the spotter fell silent. The colonel walked forward, peering through binoculars. Every single shot, dead center. A hush fell over the entire range. Even the recruits stood frozen, eyes wide. The colonel slowly lowered his binoculars, his face pale. That's impossible." William gave a faint smile. "Nothing's impossible, Colonel. Not when you remember what you're fighting for." Colonel Porter approached him, now. No trace of arrogance in his tone. "Hartman, where did you learn to shoot like that?" William looked off into the distance, his voice low and heavy with memory. "In places where missing wasn't an option." The colonel nodded slowly. "You just broke every Marine Corps rifle record on this base." But William didn't seem proud, only reflective. "Records fade, son. The men who stood beside you, that's what stays." That night, word spread across the camp. The old man, who shattered Marine records, wasn't just a veteran, he was a legend. His service file, when pulled up, revealed he had once been one of the top Marine snipers in Vietnam, credited with saving countless lives and earning the Silver Star. The next morning, Colonel Porter personally found him sitting by the range again, cleaning the same rifle he had borrowed. "I owe you an apology, Sergeant Hartman," the colonel said quietly. "I laughed because I saw your age, not your worth. That was my mistake." William smiled faintly. "You weren't wrong, Colonel. My body's old, but a Marine never forgets." The colonel nodded with respect. "If you're up for it, I'd like you to run a marksmanship class for my recruits. They could learn a thing or two about what real discipline looks like." William chuckled softly. "Discipline, huh, they'll hate me before they respect me. But sure, let's teach them." Over the next few weeks, the base transformed. Recruits who once joked about the old vet now called him sir. They hung onto his every word, every lesson. He taught them not just how to shoot, but how to focus, breathe, and respect the weapon in their hands. He spoke of courage, brotherhood, and loss, lessons no manual could ever teach. By the end of the month, firing accuracy across the unit had doubled. Even the colonel joined in on drills, humbled and inspired. And when graduation day came, William stood proudly beside the young Marines, the next generation he had helped shape. Before he left, the colonel handed him a plaque, "For breaking Marine records, and for reminding us what a true Marine is made of." William smiled as he read it, then looked toward the range one last time. "I didn't come here to prove anything," he said softly. "Just to remember who I was." Then, with his old Marine cap pulled low and the sun dipping behind the horizon, he walked away, leaving behind a camp full of soldiers who would never forget the day the old veteran taught them what greatness really meant. Moral of the story: respect is not earned through age or rank, it's earned through action, courage, and the quiet strength to never forget where you came from.